Different places in different parts of the world will have different understandings of what an art historical category might be, or what a narrative of art history might be. Sometimes it will happen not through what we might understand art history to be, or how it might function, or how it might disseminate, but it might operate through criticism, through occasional essays, through curatorial texts, through artist texts and performed lectures. So I think having a broader understanding of, or a more flexible maybe understanding of what a categorical narrative might be in different parts of the world is very significant. One is in relation to exhibitions. What exhibitions were taking place in Central and Eastern Europe, but also internationally that included Central and Eastern European art, that we haven't really explored what those exhibition or curatorial histories might be. The second area is in relation to the writing that was happening in the 1970s and 1980s, and I'm thinking especially of Yugoslavia, an area of my own research focus, and there have been so many different kinds of writings that emerged that were absolutely central to the way that art practice, art histories, exhibition histories were developing throughout the country, but especially, I guess, the western half of Yugoslavia during that period. Well, I have a certain wariness of origin thinking, I have to admit. I mean, when an artwork is made or an art practice is generated, it's always much more multiple and multifarious, undisciplined in many respects. And so its origins will always come from many different points and places, unexpected, intended, and so forth. I mean, that said, in terms of the perhaps the underdevelopment of the histories or the historicizations of these areas, certainly work from the late 50s through the 1970s. So I guess that could be considered the neo-avantgarde period. There's a lot of work that has been touched upon to an extent, but it's such a rich set of veins of history, whether it be the experimental art. There was a major exhibition, fabulous exhibition and catalogue of experimental art in Romania since 1960. A real groundbreaker, I think, for the region. That's one example that is kind of a foundation for hopefully lots of other approaches to the work that was being done in Romania. If that is put in dialogue, or perhaps in some kind of tension, perhaps with other similar but slightly different terms, maybe it's the international with its older histories, both problematic, of course, in terms of colonialism, but maybe also about international solidarities, that it contains within it different ways of thinking about relations between people from different nations. I'm not so taken by the word transnational. There's so much difference between different places within a nation. Obviously, LA is very different from New York, Yash is very different from Timisoara, Glasgow is very different from London. So to talk about the transnational doesn't work so well as a frame, because to say Romanian art or British art flattens a lot of distinctions. That's why I'm more taken by the word translocal, which certainly been inspired by Maya and Ruben Folks's work in this regard with their Translocal Institute, but thinking about the relations between different localities, one city and another, one part of a city and another, one institution and another, that can still cross national borders or flow in other kinds of international trajectories and trade routes. One response to this would be that it's a question of audience. To whom is the region going to be visible? Is going to be visible and generally in English language for a North Atlantic audience. And we can sort of see this even in important work such as the East Art Map by Irvin, that question of who is the audience for this work It certainly was for other practitioners, artists, curators, writers from other parts of Central and Eastern Europe. But it's very significant that it was an English language publication distributed through English language publishers that has garnered a huge amount of attention, and I think rightly so though, but a huge amount of attention from those English language audiences who may not necessarily have had much understanding or awareness of what was being generated in Eastern and Central Europe for the 50, 60, 70 years before that book and that project came out. At the same time, that visibility is people from Yugoslavia, for instance, or from Czechoslovakia, from Poland, will have an awareness of what those contexts are. So that sense of visible to whom, for whom, by what means, I think we have to maintain quite a critical view on that, or certainly a very self-aware view about what visibility might mean in that context.